This video is like a deep dive into the archetypes again of Gemini and Sagittarius, but in how they speak through our creative process. Because to me, I feel that this axis of these two archetypes, the axis of exploration, it is very, very creative. There's something so creative about both of these archetypes, and something about expression, communication, being allowed to take up space. But I feel like that's more fire. That's more a fire, a fiery thing somehow. So maybe we dive into that in another video. But what I really wanted to share with was when these two polarities, or when these two archetypes opposite of each other, when they are balancing each other out, there is this feeling of expansion, like wonderful, wonderful expansion when they support each other. It is so beautiful. You know how we talked about these two archetypes as something about knowledge and knowing, the difference between knowledge and knowing, the difference between gathering some information outside of yourself or gathering it from inside, gathering it from lived experience or gathering it through others' lived experience. So the combination of these two practically, and how to balance them. Because in our society we are bombarded with information, and in our education system that is currently being completely disrupted. But for so long, education was about handing over information, handing over knowledge, and not so much, as I have experienced it, not so much about creating your own experience. But what I wanted to dive into was exactly, okay, so what does that mean in the creative process? And I will give you a few examples. So a lot of us has been carrying this belief that we have to know everything before we begin to do something. Like, for example, we have to know exactly how to paint, how to master the watercolor, and we have to know every single thing about watercolor before we paint with watercolor. Like, that could be one thing, and then we search and we watch all of these videos, but we never really go to the act of doing the watercolor, like just exploring the watercolor. Okay, so I have this pigment, I have this brush. What happens when I put a stroke on this piece of paper? What happens? And not getting caught in the illusion of that something can be right or wrong. The right way to do something and the wrong way to do something. And that is where our fire comes into the picture. Like, whereas Gemini might get caught sometimes into the thought process, you know, of, oh, then I want to do this, and I want ideas, and all of these things. But if the other part is not there, the action, the fire, the action, if it is not there, then it will remain air. It will simply remain air. So as we get an idea, it is so important that we honor that idea through our fire, through Sagittarius, and we act on it. We act on the idea as it is here. That is one thing. Honoring the air by acting on the idea while it's here, simply getting it out. There's no right or wrong. There's only exploration. And that is something that both of these beautiful energies are truly here for. It is the exploration. So this thing about doing research, for example, doing research can go into analysis paralysis very, very easily. It is like you gather so much information about something, you research and research and research before you start it, and it can be like diving into a new piece of software, or watercolor like we just mentioned before, or even like gardening. Like, let's say you want to start gardening, and then you research and research and research and research, and then this and this and this, and it will be the optimal thing to do this, and this is how you make compost, and all of these things. And then when it comes to the actually doing it, you can become so scared of doing something wrong that you never put a seed into the ground. Or on the other hand, you can be at this point and think that you know so much, but when you put a seed into the ground, then something that you never expected would happen. The garden that you have is completely unique. So no matter how much knowledge you try to gather, unexpected things will always happen. It will always happen. So no matter how much knowledge we gather, we will never know. We will never know until we experience it. So I guess this is the second thing. The first thing was honoring your idea by doing something now. And the second thing is not getting like stuck in research too heavily. I would say that when like research is something that you can do afterwards, only research on what is absolutely necessary for you to get going. What is absolutely necessary for you to start right here and now? And then you start, and then you feel your way into the process and into into the creative process. And then when you get stuck, that is where the research, that is where the Gemini energy of researching and gathering knowledge gathering from or learning from others' experience, that is where it becomes helpful. But only when we are stuck. If we go through research unnecessarily, like there's no reason for it, it only leads to procrastination. And but it is very, very beautiful, because there can lie so much behind this, like the fear of starting is a very, very juicy thing to meditate with. Like we can find so much of our blockages behind that fear. So to me, these two archetypes, they speak so strongly in my creative process. And it is really about honoring the exploration, honoring the curiosity of Gemini, and honoring learning through experience with Sagittarius, and not getting too involved with all of the details. Just go with it. And then when we get stuck, then we can look towards others. Then we can find inspiration. And then we can find knowledge, or seek knowledge through what other people have gathered through their experience. And most of the time, also, if we're feeling stuck, what can really help is just doing. It's just doing it. Start. Okay, I think it's time to actually tell you how I started making sound journeys. But I feel like it's for another video, so I will leave you for now, and then I will make another video on that. So thank you so much for being here, and yeah, I'm so grateful to you. And yeah, it means so much. It, like, every time you guys comment and share your experience, and it really means a lot to me. It's insane. So so thank you so much, and I'm sending lots of love, and see you soon. Ciao ciao.